What kind of GM are you? A question we must all answer. My primary goal with tabletop RPGs is to offer choice. No other medium is collaborative storytelling the same way that tabletop RPGs are. No other. When there's a bunch of writers in a writing room and they're working on Boardwalk Empire, it's still not a completely collaborative process because there's no audience interaction. Video games are interactive storytelling indeed, but you can only make the choices and see the stories that are already programmed into the game. Choice is king because it makes this hobby unique. Sometimes when I'm presenting choices in a game, it might look like a binary choice, red or blue, but sometimes the player's answer is halibut, and I want to be able to cater to that. When the Thieves Guild approaches the characters and says, we got an offer you can't refuse. Well, the characters are absolutely allowed to refuse it, and they're also allowed to accept the offer, whether you defy the Thieves Guild or whether you ally yourself with them. There's no right or wrong choice, there's just different choices for different situations. Speaking of binary choices, I'm not one who takes things at face value, nor do I like to present things at face value. In screenwriting, this is called the expectation slash result gap. And when the villagers approach the characters in a game and they say, oh, the goblins have gotten into the cavern where we store our water. The goblins have gotten into the village's reservoir, and they're going to poison it, and they're going to destroy the village. You need to save us. When the characters get into this cavern, they don't have a huge battle with goblins like they were expecting. No, they find all the goblins are already dead, ripped asunder by some creature. They explore further into the cavern, and they find that these giant insects from beyond the stars, called Silithids, have invaded, and they have infested the burrow, and they have to do battle with these. And it's their first taste of the extraplanar beings that are beginning to seep into the world. I also enjoy defying tropes. In my last D&D campaign, the players sort of had this paladin mentor named Griffin Lord Wayland, and I described his looks and mannerisms as being like Liam Neeson. And if you're familiar with Liam Neeson or paladins in popular media, you know that neither of them can do anything except die or turn evil when in a mentor role. But Griffin Lord Wayland, I had no plans for him to do either, and he didn't, and that defied expectations. Now, as far as structure goes, I neither do a linear nor a sandbox approach. I do what I call a sandcastle approach, in that there is a sandbox for you to move around in, but on the horizon at all times are these sandcastles, and they're saying, here be adventure, come, join us. And, these are beacons for the players to head to, sort of goading them in the right direction. I find that a linear game takes away too much choice, and a fully sandbox game actually gives too much choice, and things can become a bit meandering and a bit ponderous, and the players can get a bit lost in that amount of choice. Aside from trying to cater to choice, I think my biggest defining feature as I run games is I'm trying to constantly ask the question, and how does that make you feel? And I refer, of course, to how does the character feel. I like presenting choices and situations that really make them stop and think, oh yeah, this is a tough choice. Like, what does my character think about what is going on here, and what is the right choice? But as I said before, there's no right or wrong choices. There's just different choices for different situations. Although one time I did literally ask, how does that make you feel? The characters were going through this cavern, and there are all these multicolored crystals growing out of the walls. And as they would approach one, they, unbidden into their mind, would come memories flooding back to them. There was red crystals would inspire rage, yellow crystals would remind them of their greatest fear. Blue crystals would remind them of their most sorrowful moment. And the green crystals would give them their most joyful memory once again. So as the players approached these, I said, so you're now experiencing your most rage-filled moment. What do you see? And even though this was sort of in the middle of a dungeon crawl, we all got to explore, characterization and the memories of these characters. Which reminds me, these flashbacks, I tend to run things cinematically, or like an HBO season. I try and do 10 to 12 sessions, and that is the season. And there's a big background story arc going on and this is what the characters interact with. And then at the end, I try and answer the big questions, but I always leave a few dangling threads for them to go, and tug on for the next season if we, pick up the game again, and hopefully we do. I will use cinematic techniques quite literally in that I will use cutscenes to tantalize the players with knowledge that their characters do not hold. And I will use flashbacks, as I said before, to learn more about who these characters are. For example, I had one player, and his character was an orc barbarian, and after they had slain a young white dragon, he was fashioning that dragon bone into a great orcish spear, and he had a flashback scene as he was working of remembering his days as a child in the orcish village under the cruel tutelage of his father, who shaped him into the barbarous warrior that he was today. And he remembered the cruelty of the local hobgoblins constantly at war with his tribe, and he remembers the humans subjugating his people and treating them like second-class citizens. And he remembered all that sorrow, but here he was building this dragon bone spear, and he was feeling that great triumph. When I'm running a game, I tend to use the carrot more than the stick. I try to reward good behavior rather than punish bad behavior. And I really like games that have fate points or bennies or action points or willpower points. Something that, when a character is role-playing well or making all these interesting actions, I like to reward them with something a bit more immediate than giving them an EXP bonus. I like to give them, replenish those willpower points or give them a Benny so they can make a reroll. Something that they can immediately go, aha, this is a tangible reward. And real quick, when something isn't important to the dramatic narrative, I tend to toss it. Food and water supplies, ammo and arrows. I tend to gloss over these things unless the characters are in a survival situation, at which point this becomes very important and you need to keep track of all of it at all times. So, in conclusion, there's a little look into my thoughts on GMing. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.